I might have made a spontaneous, romantic gesture? Well, no, only I was upset, wasn't I, about that thing in my studio. Oh, the bird, yeah, so you were. What was going on? I didn't like this. I was somehow being invited to feel complicit in a gift of flowers that was as much a mystery to me as it was to him. Doesn't it say who they're from? You tell me. He shrugged as though it were a matter of inconsequence, although when I went over and found the little gift card in its envelope, I could tell it had already been opened. From an admirer, I read aloud. That's a bit creepy. Is it? Said Nick elliptically. He uncorked a bottle of red wine and switched on the telly, flicking through the channels until he found the news. It was as though our adolescent slap and tickle had never happened. I cast him a wary glance. Well, I think it's creepy, I said. Who round here would be admiring me? He poured himself a glass of wine. You really can't guess, he said, sipping it and staring at the screen. I found myself blushing furiously. On the one hand, I was a bit disturbed, especially after the other weird stuff that had been happening lately. On the other, Nick seemed jealous was too strong a word. Piqued, perhaps. And this was new. He looked at me, eyebrows raised in amused reproach, as if it were obvious who the sender was, as if I were just being coy. Well, whoever they're from, I don't want them, I said, grabbing them from the vase, marching them to the front door, and flinging them out into the darkness. Methinks the lady doth protest too much, said Nick inscrutably. He poured a glass of wine, pushed it across the coffee table toward me, and turned up the volume on the news. I woke early. Light was streaming through the blind, and a single bird was chirruping loudly at intervals of exactly 7 seconds. Once I had started to count them, I couldn't stop. I crept out of bed, glancing over my shoulder to make sure I hadn't disturbed Nick. He gave a great shuddering sigh before subsiding into sleep again. I pulled a sweatshirt on over my pyjamas and went downstairs. The porch light was still on. Ethan's boots, usually to be found lying haphazardly near the doormat, were conspicuous by their absence. The missing jean jacket was nowhere to be seen. He hadn't come home from the pub. My mind set off on its usual rat-run of worry. I imagined him lying in a field comatose from drugs, disfigured in a car wreck, sitting in casualty waiting for a pint glass to be removed from his cranium. And then I remembered the gagging for it text I had seen on the train, and the thought occurred that it might not, after all, have been addressed to the Australian girl, but to someone local. I tried to feel relieved. I hadn't gone far down the garden when I found the bouquet of flowers lying on the grass where I had thrown it last night, its cellophane wrapping spangled with dew. I was heading down the path to put it in the dustbin when my conscience pricked me. It seemed such a waste. The velvety cream petals of the lilies were still pristine, the rosebuds tightly furled. The flowers didn't know or care who sent them, and in the optimistic morning light, they seemed to have lost their menace. There must be someone who would appreciate them, surely. I considered for a moment, then peeling the envelope off the cellophane, I threw that alone in the bin and set off down the lane for Prospect Cottage. I hesitated at the gate. Day had not yet penetrated the overgrown garden. Shrubs huddled like boulders in the crepuscular light, and a faint breeze stirred the ley landi. Steeling myself, I hurried up the crazy paving path, pushed open the porch door, and leaned my bouquet against an etagerie crammed with ugly, old-fashioned houseplants. A whiff of soil and rot and PVC caught in my throat. The outer door had swung to behind me, and hearing a sound from inside the house, I scrambled to make good my escape, barging against the etagerie in my haste and knocking a spider plant in a flimsy plastic pot upside down onto the floor.